Hey everybody, this is David from Landing Cube, and today I'm here with my good friend Tony Brooks. Tony is a Amazon product launch expert. He's been in charge of a seven-figure Amazon business as well for a number of years, and he's one of the most knowledgeable guys I know when it comes to selling on Amazon. And today we're talking a bit about what's going on with COVID-19, how it's impacting Amazon sellers, and what are the opportunities coming out of it. Hey Tony.
Hey, David. Good to be here with you.
Great having
you. Yeah, thank you. So as you mentioned, I'm COO of a vitamin company on Amazon. I also do a bunch of consulting. I run a launch service called Brand Conqueror. If you want to reach me at for that company or that launch service, you can reach me at tony@brandconqueror.com. We're marketing, Amazon marketing and launch service. So we've been running a bunch of launches going on during the COVID crisis, and basically we've seen some interesting stuff. So I want to get on the phone, get on the Google Meet and share with you what's going on with that.
Awesome. So I think let's start off with a timeline of how have Amazon sellers been affected. And I think it starts all the way back in end of January, Chinese New Year's, factories are usually closed during that time. But then what happened is factories didn't reopen for a while, right? So that's now going into February, massive supply chain disruptions for a lot of Amazon sellers, starting to cause issues there. Then fast forward, COVID reaches the US in March. What has happened? What has happened there?
Well, I mean, so like you said, in the beginning, we were really seeing it affecting the supply chain in China. I worked with one seller we were gearing for a launch around February, and he just couldn't get an answer from his factory at the time, whether he can get enough units in to do the launches. And you fast forward to when COVID actually hits in the United States, Amazon wasn't prepared. I don't think any of us was prepared, but Amazon wasn't prepared. A lot of warehouse disruption at that time. A number of our clients switched from FBA to FBM because the FBA delivery times were upwards of 30 days. And this was greatly affecting our conversion rates. So a lot of the clients that I know and work with switched from FBA to FBM to get those delivery times back down and to raise the conversion rates back up. So a lot of clients that already were selling with a 3PL were in a better position and had to scramble less to switch over. So that was a major focus for a lot of clients I worked with at that time.
Mm-hmm. And not only were there massive shipping delays on the FBA side of things, right? Amazon warehouses for a while also did not accept shipping entirely, right? Like there was a period where most product categories.
Sure, yeah, and that changed until recently. There was just a limit on what you could ship back in, right?
Yeah.
So it was on like both fronts, right? So, not only were the customers being affected in terms of delivery times, but sellers were also being affected in terms of they just couldn't get their goods into Amazon.
Yeah.
We were a few of our clients were lucky. They were considered essential items, so they were less affected. But on the other hand, a few other companies, that weren't considered essential were affected, and we had to deal with that as well.
Right. I think it's extremely interesting. So my impression as well has been that, roughly speaking, maybe half of the sellers started doing better than normal, and the other half started to have, significant issues related to supply chain and order fulfillment, etc.
I would say it's not only that; it depends on what category you're into, right?
Yes.
If you're in home gym equipment, you probably did very, very well. If you are in travel, you probably did pretty poorly,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it just happened that some categories just for whatever, because of the nature of the situation, did better than others. Overall, I think there was an influx of buyers buying traffic on Amazon.
Mhm.
So I think as long as you weren't in those categories that were clearly affected by the lockdown, like I mentioned, travel, outdoor sports, things like that, gardening maybe, although gardening you could do it outside the home.
Yep.
So there's a few categories that were that have been really affected, but for the most part, I think there was just a lot more buying traffic on Amazon.
Mhm.
So I think the people were just bored, right? They're at home, they're bored, and they want to do
Yep.
something. So Amazon in general just saw an influx of
Right.
buying traffic. So,
Yeah, and there's no way for these people, or there was no way, things are starting to open up now, but people were not able to actually spend money, right? They're just
right,
sitting there. Some
right.
of them, most of them still having jobs, probably still having, like being stable financially. And now there's nothing to spend money on all of a sudden, right? So what you're going to do, you go online and start shopping.
Sure. And you're sitting at home bored, right? So you
Yeah,
want that
it's something to do.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And it was interesting too that, like, I don't know if you followed the Amazon stock price, but
No, I didn't.
it initially crashed
Oh
massively,
yeah,
like everything
yeah.
else.
Bezos is rich enough. I don't need to
Yeah,
follow
yeah.
that.
No. So they've recovered. So in early March, they crashed quite a bit, like everything else. And
Yeah.
then just a few weeks into the crisis, decided to shoot up, and now the stock price is basically sitting at an all-time high.
Same as Facebook, right?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if Facebook's at all-time high or not, but they've nicely
Okay.
recovered too. Most stocks
Yeah.
now have
Yeah.
actually recovered,
Yeah.
but Amazon is now worth more than before the crisis.
Right. Right.
It's interesting too that you mentioned like high traffic levels going to Amazon, because I don't know if you followed this, but the Amazon affiliates, they got screwed a couple of weeks ago,
Oh,
right? So there was
yeah.
a huge cut in payouts, up to 80% in some categories, I believe, of the Amazon affiliate commissions, which
Yeah.
just
That's a
just
shame.
just horrible. But supposedly, so one of my friends unfortunately was affected. But what he said is Amazon sent him an email like 2 weeks before the rate cut, already saying like, please stop driving traffic. So it really seems like Amazon was just getting too much traffic, and again, not being able to fulfill it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard of things also like I mean they shut down lightning deals, right?
Yep.
They moved Prime Day back. They just couldn't handle the extra volume, and I think that was mostly the warehouses. Like they were just backlogged in terms of being able to like get things in and out, and just the massive flood of new buying traffic. I think it was mostly because of the warehouses. Now
Yep.
they've had a month to basically see where that goes and try to fix that, and I think that they've done a pretty good job with that. So I'm assuming now that because they put lightning deals back up, and from what I'm hearing, they're ready to have Prime Day again sometime in August or September. So my guess is things have and FBA the delivery times have gone pretty much back to normal.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So those things indicate to me that things have normalized. And also the shipping rates, the shipping limits have been removed.
Right.
So for me, that indicates that things are back to the new normal. But for Amazon, it seems like it's the normal. It's back
Yep.
to normal, right? So I would say that driving external traffic now, it would be, if you can handle it now, if your company can handle it, would be all right. And I say if your company can handle it, because there is still logistics issues, not Amazon logistics issues, more your logistics issues. If you're
Yep.
an FBM, and we have launched products with FBM, and we've done well in terms of rank and things like that. But if you're still on FBM and you feel that you still need to be on FBM, then you need to be able to handle that new external traffic that would come with a launch, and that would mean being able talking to your 3PL and making sure that they can handle that extra buying traffic, and getting the products out on time, because Amazon recently hold off suspending accounts for late shipment and delinquent shipments, but that's going to end soon. They're going to go back to penalizing accounts for that. So you need to make sure that you are shipping things on time, especially with the new buying traffic. It can get very messy if you send 100 to 300 new customers to your listing and they buy and you're on FBM. You need to make sure that you're able to handle that. At least your 3PL is, right? So you need to talk to your 3PL before that.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk some more about these opportunities now. So sure. Things are slowly coming back. In, like you said, the new normal. There might be issues still related to fulfillment that people need to be aware of when doing product launches. On the flip side, even though stores are starting to open up now in the US, like I think the demand to buy stuff online, it's not going to go away.
And I think it's actually going to stay pretty high because things are opening up, but I think a lot of people are going to be hesitant to go out, especially in places like malls where there's going to be a lot of people gathering. I think people, for the most part, are still going to shop online.
Yeah. I think what's also interesting to think about, it's like a bit of a thought experiment or, even idea for like new niches to get into is, people maybe say over the age of like 55, 60, probably not the biggest users of e-commerce in general, right? Like they're just used to going to stores and less likely to buy online. But these are, once you're over the age of 60 or especially 70, you're definitely in the danger group of coronavirus. So I think there was probably a shift with like a lot of these people now basically being forced to start to learn how to use Amazon. So there could be going forward decent demand for products that are popular with that age group, that maybe previously there was not a ton of search volume or sales volume on Amazon yet. And maybe in the future there's going to be. So I think that's just an interesting thought experiment for anybody that wants to like look for a new niche or whatever. Like what is it that old people buy?
Yeah, and I think if you are a seller at this point, the things are shifting so fast. I mean, I know a lot of sellers that jumped on the face mask craze, right? And worked to get their face masks up, and then Amazon bans face masks, and then they're stuck with 10,000 face masks. Things move so rapidly at this stage of the game that if you're a well-established brand and you're doing fairly well at this point, I would say not to pivot so much, because you don't necessarily know what's going to happen in the next 2 months, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. Because the things change so rapidly with this situation. And I don't necessarily think you should, if things are going well and you're a well-established brand, I don't know if you should take your eye off that ball to chase something that might change in 6 months.
Yeah, I'm talking more if somebody is like looking for a new niche and they're like a beginner or whatever. But you're right. Exactly. If you're doing well, like
if you're a beginner and you're more like, you have a few products that are working, but you want to try new things. For that, I would always say keep doing research every day, or have your VA do research every day, right? You're continually just updating your product research, and then you might want to follow the trends a little bit more, right?
Yep. So let's segue a little bit here to ad pricing. So let's talk Facebook ads and Google ads, right? In the middle of this crisis, prices have gone down significantly on these ads. And do you want to talk a little bit about what you've seen there?
So we were doing launches in the thick of the coronavirus crisis a month and a half ago, a month ago. And we saw really good results in terms of Facebook ad spend. Things were really going down. Now they've gone slightly back up, but it's still not where it was, before the crisis. We've been able to give out rebates, coupons for, less than $1 at a time for a lot of our clients.
Hmm.
Some of the clients, they're more niche, so it's a little bit harder to give out coupons. But even for them, we were seeing less than $5 a coupon, which before that it was more difficult. And these are not deep discount coupons. These are fairly I would say not deep discount coupons. So they tend to be a little bit more in terms of pricing to give out, but we've definitely been seeing good results in terms of that. Now I think it's going to start going back up. It's just the fact that I think there was just a lot more people basically on their computer. So that just there was more eyeballs on Facebook.
More ad inventory, more page views.
Exactly. People at home, they're working from home, they're able to go on Facebook more readily than if they were in the office. So I think it's not necessarily that more advertisers dropped off. And then that could be too. A lot of advertisers might have gotten cold feet and dropped off and cut their ad budgets. That coupled with just, like I said, more people on Facebook, and it just more eyeballs on the screen, right?
Yep.
So, but I do think now that things are going to open back up a little bit, there's probably going to be a reverse in that people are going to want to get away from their screens for the next few months. It just depends if things go back into a lockdown phase, then it will give and take, right? But I think there's going to be a point where people are going to kind of push back on being on the screen all the time and want to go outside. So we may see a reverse in that ad spend. And I'm going to be continually monitoring it. I can update you. I think we're in that middle phase right now where there's still a lot of people in lockdown, but the lockdown's starting to end in a lot of places as well. So it's going to be a transition phase, I think. And if you're running ads right now, what I would say is don't bet on those ads staying as cheap as they are now for the remainder of the year. Like, make sure you're monitoring your coupon distribution. Make sure you're monitoring your ad spend. Make sure you're keeping an eye on this on a daily basis, because things can fluctuate wildly sometimes, and you need to be able to adjust your budgets and your goals based on what you're seeing almost real time. So don't let it on a set it and forget it phase and do a report every week. That's probably not a good way to go. Things are moving so fast here that I would say keep an eye on that and make sure you're adjusting on a daily basis.
Awesome. That makes a ton of sense. So we've talked about how logistics are starting to improve again, how probably sales volumes are going to continue staying high, most likely. There's still an opportunity with ad spend, but it's unclear how much longer that is going to be the case, getting these cheaper conversions.
Yeah, and let me go. So with Facebook, I always think there's a good opportunity because
for sure.
For me, like, Facebook is the most powerful marketing tool we have and probably ever have. So even when it was pre-corona, it was still really good. Like, except maybe December, January, and those times I would say probably, like, for most marketers, it's probably not a good time to advertise, just because you have a flood of from Black Friday to basically
competitive.
Yeah, it's just competitive. And you need to be aware of that. But for the most part, it's pretty good.
Yeah, great. Is there anything else on your mind when it comes to launching products or opportunities, like right now?
So I'll circle back to the logistics a little bit, because I do think that there's still issues there. I think suppliers, factories in China are starting to get back to where they were, right? But there's still issues with that. I think there's issues in terms of if you do a launch and you underestimate your inventory, and you normally, when you do that, you normally do air shipments. Well, air shipments now are prohibitively expensive, just because airlines are not running right now. And that will probably be the case for the next 6 months, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not you know, logistics is not necessarily my forte, but like I work with clients that have
Hmm.
these. And so you really need, if you're going to launch in this phase, you need to be aware of that shipping and logistics, it's going to take longer than before. So I would raise your normal threshold, however you calculate that threshold, whether it's days left in stock or just number of units available. I would up that to a few weeks, maybe a few months more, until you figure out what exactly your supply chain looks like. We did that for one company, and we increased it by like 3 months actually, and now we're starting to see like, okay, our factories are getting back to normal. Let's lower that a little bit, right? So if you're going to launch during this phase, just be aware of that and be ready to pull the trigger faster than you normally would, and just have a higher threshold of inventory, and play
Yep.
it safe, because one of the worst things you want to do right now is basically you know, launch something and then go out of stock and then have to relaunch it again, and then
Yeah.
still have to wait longer because the logistics is even longer than before, right?
Yeah. That's basically the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
yeah. So just be aware of that. And then, like I said, the daily monitoring, the daily reports, I think is a good thing, because it's just things are shifting so much currently, that you know, you just want to make sure that your eyes on the ball.
Yep.
And then the last thing I would say is FBM versus FBA. You need to be checking what your FBA delivery times are, and figuring out if FBA is still better than FBM, because right now we're starting to see it normalize for a lot of products and a lot of zip codes. And if that's the case, then you may want to switch back to FBA, because normally FBA is just going to get the buy box more. It's going to have better conversions more. Um, but it's a
Right.
case by case basis. So I don't want to give you a blanket rule, but you need to investigate that as a company and just figure out if you need to switch back to FBA at this point.
Amazing. I think that was really awesome. Really great insights from you. So let's wrap it up here. And again, you are consulting with Amazon brands, helping them with launches and boosting their rankings, right?
So we run a launch service. We do the launches for everyone. We do consulting. We you know, we have a marketing agency that's focused on Amazon. So you know, those are our specialties. Yeah.
Cool. So do you want to mention your email address or your website again, if anybody wants to get in
It's
touch with you?
brandconqueror.com, Tony@brandconqueror.com.
Awesome. All right, Tony. Thanks so much for the insights, and let's talk again soon.
No problem. Talk to you soon. Have a great one. Bye bye.